some ways, we have been sort of numb or been made numb by the environment that has been created by the box checkers. And I think we're trying to fight for poetry and beauty to be reinstated as the motivating force rather than how many rebar and that's not the right yellowed warning strip. Things can be done a different way. What happens if you really think about the built environment, and I go back to my friendly engineers who have sort of created, the traffic engineers that have created the environment we're in, you think about it, it's a car-dominated situation. And then you have the bike people who have fought super hard to get their little piece of pavement and are only now just sort of being getting some traction, let's say, to think about bikeways, especially the transformations of New York and various larger cities that has happened with bikeways. But you know who's been left out on the curb or in the dust is our pedestrians. Yeah. It's really sort of sad that we ourselves are the last to sort of think about our own. And so I do think that we need to radically rethink the pedestrian engagement with the city. Yeah. And a little bit more balanced approach about how we move through. And, you know, we ourselves are I mean, you can talk to a landscape architect and we sort of always know the connection to nature and love of plant materials and environments that are living opposed to static are scintillating and mind provoking. But you know, we've always sort of struggled in having a tool to let people know the importance of landscape, because there's always that tree that's going to drop stuff on my driveway. I'm going to cut it down. But once you try and give a metric, which is the part of the problem that I dislike so much, is this creating a metric to say that, well, that tree is worth, increasing your property value is $5,000. I really don't want people to be thinking about that, even though that's a true statement, is that your property values will go up if you're sitting on a tree-lined street opposed to one with no trees. But what I'm more interested in is some of the studies that are coming out of Stanford, that where it really, there are now documented tests that, you know, they literally took a class and split it in half and had half the students go in, you know, park in the parking lot and walk into the classroom and have class, and then the other half they actually made them walk through a landscape, the arboretum, which is a more forested landscape. And literally they tested both of the student groups, and the brain and the capacity to learn was so much more increased by the ones that actually took a walk in nature. That, you know, these kinds of studies, I think, is really interesting to see the impact on our lives and how important the landscape is. And so as we move forward with technology and everything else, I think this relationship becomes even more key. And that's what we need to sort of promote, is how do you interject landscape into places where people can have those walking meetings for 10 minutes or converse with people as they bump into them safely 6 feet apart.
Right.
You know, it's like these moments need to be increased, especially as we know with the Zoom meetings and everything. You literally want to pull your hair out by the end, but because of the lack of human contact. But some of that lack of human contact can be remedied by contact with nature. And and when it's nature, it's not only just the physical, but it's also the smell of nature, you know, the fragrance, the connections, the wildlife, the animal life and flora and fauna that come together. And that's why some of these things that we're doing in San Francisco, looking at